Okay, so I think it's recording. All right. All right. Quick story. Another quick story. So once again, grew up in the foothills of Appalachia in a valley. That's going to actually come into play in this story. So you drive east, you drive west, more than 20 minutes, you find yourself going up some mountains, right? So this one Friday, I'm getting off of work. This is the Friday I get paid from one of my jobs. I think at the time I had two jobs. I was like working at the mall and I was a math tutor. So I just got paid, so I'm getting my oil change. And where I get my oil change is like this busy intersection, at least busy for our town. Not the biggest. There's a notification on my computer that's going to probably keep popping up. Anyway, let me continue. So I'm getting my oil change, and right then, three people I know pull up. There were these three girls I know. They're riding around with somebody else, and they pull up and they start screaming. They're like, "Hey, how whatever, like waving me down." And I'm kind of waving back at them, and one of them jumps out of the car and kind of runs to me. Yeah, it's in the intersection. I mean, albeit they're not running through traffic, but they're making a right turn and gets that. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. Now let me give you some backstory, and I'll say her name because I don't think I'm not gonna say her full name. Her name's Lakeisha. And background is this: at the time, I'm probably like 19. Lakeisha's probably about like 16 or 17, right? And I had a bit of a crush on Lakeisha. Even looking back as though she's cute. She's very pretty. Short thing, cute face, round but whatever, right? I don't even should get in those details. It plays into the story, all right? So she comes up to me and I'm like, hey, what's up, right? I think I'm pretty sure she knew I was into her, but where I worked in the mall, her and her friends used to hang out at the mall a lot, and they used to come by where we worked. I worked in a video game arcade, and they would just ask for free games to just sit around and talk, or when they would get bored, they would actually help us. It was her. The three girls is her. Her younger sister was like a year younger than her, and their mutual friend, this friend named Jennifer. And when they would get bored, they would actually come by and like count tickets, or they'd actually do work. That's because they ain't nothing else to do. These are like absentee parent kids. They were so bored, they would come around, do work for us, and then they may work for 30 minutes or so, and then be like, "Hey, can you give us some tokens for a game, or can you give us a free game?" Which, like, sure, whatever, right? I digress. So she comes up to me. She says, "Hey, would you mind giving me a ride to my cousin's house?" And I'm like, it's Friday. I don't have nothing to do. And also, as I previously mentioned, I got a bit of crush on this girl. She gonna probably come up in another story. So I'm like, yeah, I'll give you a ride. Because, beyond having just a crush on her, she was actually kind of fun to hang out with. She was cool. So, I think before I agreed to that, I asked, where does your cousin live? And her cousin lived in the adjacent county. And I was kind of like, oh, man. I sat there and pretended like I was annoyed, damn well knowing I was going to take her, to see her cousin. So, of course, like I mentioned before, the adjacent county, it's to the west of us. Our county's in a valley. The counties next to us to the east and west are the mountains, right? Foothills, Appalachia, right? So I drive her up there. Now, Lakeisha, her father was black, her mother was white. So her cousin is from a white side of her family. So we driving up to these mountains, up to see her, up to get her to her cousin. Her cousin lives like in a trailer up in the mountains. So we go up there, winding, kind of out in some holler. We go into the trailer, and it's her mother and her stepdaddy's in the trailer. So we sit down, and her stepdad start talking to them all. And her stepdaddy's sitting there cooking something in the microwave, or got something going on in the microwave. And we start talking, and they're really cool people. Like this, the stepdaddy's talking, the usual thing. I don't know if this is, people in the South do this all the time. At least I say the South, when I say the South, to me, often it's kind of an intersection. As even though I grew up in the South, I grew up in the mountain South. So there's kind of like it's a subculture of a culture, and I'm sure people do this in small towns all the time. But they ask about your family. It's almost like a vouching thing, Because albeit I did just pull up, I'm about to they gonna let their daughter get in the car with me, and they're very polite, but they ask him questions, in a polite way. It's like, where's who your family, whatever. And it turns out that he actually knew, it's kind of like, oh, I know your family, the good people, right? It's kind of a thing. And this is a cool ass dude, right? So we sitting there talking, and he's like, you want anything to drink? Got some Coca-Cola. And like, sure, get some Coca-Cola. And he's like, we about to eat, want some to eat? And I know, and these are like generally like cool ass people. You can kind of tell when people are putting on a act, but they, cool people. I'm enjoying myself. All of a sudden, I'm really relaxed. Then this dude pulls out a plate. Now I'm sitting at the table. We all sit at the table. The mama there, the stepdaddy there, Lakeisha there, and Lakeisha cousin there. The stepdaddy goes in the back. He had in the microwave. He pulls out of the microwave a plate of Bud. Bud. I'm talking about the stickiest of the icky, right? And he's sitting there like inspecting this junk. And then he proceeds to tell me how he's got it grown all up around they land. They growing weed all up around their land, and how he done set up traps back there. This man done set up traps with the weed, and how he's pretty convinced that the feds are investigating him. He's sharing all this with me. At this point, I'm kind of like, mm-hmm. And I kind of glance at Lakeisha. I glance at Lakeisha, and she does this. She had no idea this junk was going on, which it kind of played into a thing in my head, because at this point, this is like the late 90s, guys. It was like every other day you'd hear a story about a trailer up in the mountains blowing up because people cooking meth. So I guess I should be happy that he just had booby traps and cooking weed up there, or growing weed up there and not doing meth. But that was what was going on. So anyway, we make it out fine. The dude's nice, dude. Just because he's growing weed. He's growing weed. Yes, he's fighting the feds, but that's not his fault, right? Anyway, a couple of weeks later, he did get arrested. He went away for a very long time, from what I understand. But had a good night. Though it's fun. After we left, we went to a football game. That's that.